Exeter. Welcome to Next Stop Exeter. This week is our music episode, and joining us for a performance will be Gretchen and the Pickpockets. But first we meet with Jon Hichborn, owner of Records on the Wall, to talk about his interesting business. All that and more right here on Next Stop Exeter. Hi, I'm with Jon Hichborn, who is the proprietor of Records on the Wall, located here in Exeter. Jon, thank you for joining us on our show.
Sure.
We've got a lot of viewers, I think, who'd be very, very interested in your story. And you're in the music business. We have this show dedicated to the music business. So I'd like to learn a bit more about what Records on the Wall is all about and how you got into this business.
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm glad you could join me up here in the office.
Well, we're happy, anytime we can go visit someone that's got gold and platinum records on their wall, I get very excited about that.
Can you think of where I might have gotten the name Records on the Wall from?
Well, my concern is that somebody had already registered that name. So shockingly enough, no one had registered that name. So kudos to you for getting that name first.
There we go. It actually came from Joe Walsh, who is now a member of the Eagles, and he had a solo song called "Life Is Good," I think it's called. And there's a line in there. It says, "Got me an office, gold records on the wall." And so I love that. I always loved that line, Records on the Wall. I thought it was fascinating.
Yeah, that is a good name, and anything that Joe Walsh comes up with has a certain level of credibility to it. So if you can steal from Joe Walsh, you've done well.
I'm not stealing from Joe Walsh.
Well, that's what you're all about, is people borrowing, not stealing, borrowing, correct?
It's interesting. Someone did a story on me back in 2003. It was in the Boston Globe. I don't know if you had a chance if you saw that article.
No.
But it hit the AP wire, and it went all around the country. And when it appeared in the Pittsburgh Gazette, instead of they had a professional photographer come in and take pictures of me, and instead of using a picture of me, they actually put a picture of one of my clients, Robert Johnson, in the article. Now, I represent the photographs, or did at the time represent the photographs of Robert Johnson, and part of the article is about the illegal usage of people and material that I represent. Well, you can't use the Robert Johnson photograph without my approval and licensing. Yet the newspaper wrote a story, or printed a story, about me going after people that illegally used material, and they went ahead and illegally used a photograph of mine.
Wow. Wow. So did you buy a paper from them and then come back to them and say, you owe me for this?
I went online and Googled everywhere that the article showed up, and I notified them. So
what was your inspiration for getting into this business?
My inspiration was when I was 16, a good friend of mine told me that if I didn't listen to music, girls wouldn't like me. So he handed me 2 albums, Kiss Alive and Aerosmith, Get Your Wings, I believe. Those are the first 2 albums I ever had. And I started to listen to music. I don't know if it worked, but...
Did you have the big clunky headphones when you were listening to those music, which are now all the rage today?
Yeah, it's funny, yeah. Either the big clunky ones or I was playing the music too loud and I was being told to turn it down. But after that, then I started to get into DJing. I was DJing music, DJing parties in I guess it would be around 1980, maybe something like that. And then I went out to California and I was DJing out there for a much larger company. I started to do weddings and birthdays and bar mitzvahs and Jewish singles parties. They were always a blast. And frat parties. And if you've ever seen Animal House, I actually lived during that time. And the parties that are in that movie are just like what I was DJing. Bottles being thrown everywhere, and the police showing up, and girls screaming. And it was a very exciting time. Anyway, from there, I got a call from Universal. They were interested in bringing me in as a music supervisor. That would be picking songs for movies, television shows, hiring composers, making sure that the scoring sessions were going on, and it was great. I mean, I was 20 2, single, and working with 20,000 people. The first day on the job, I walk into a little room with a boombox because we want to play music with a picture, and some people may not know this name, but I certainly did at the time. Guy puts out his hand, he's sitting on the couch, he goes, "Hi, I'm Bert." Well, it's Burt Reynolds. I kept my composure. But I was working with people like Burt Reynolds, Steven Spielberg, on a daily basis, and it was an amazing job to have at 22 years old, to be working on these great motion pictures and TV shows, Miami Vice and Back to the Future and Out of Africa and The Breakfast Club, stuff like that.
Did they ask you for a resume when you were 22, or did they just say, kid, you got it, we want you?
You've heard this story?
I haven't. I'm very interested in hearing.
A friend of mine was a music editor at Universal, and he had heard about the job, and he said, "Will you be interested?" And I said, "I think so." So I go into Universal, and it's a big black tower. It's like 12, 15 stories high, and you can't see in. It's very scary looking. Mm-hmm. I go up to the 9th floor, and there's all these people walking around in suits, and all the girls are dressed up in really fancy clothes, and I didn't have much to wear, but I'm sitting outside, and I hear this man inside, and he is cursing, and he's screaming, and every F-bomb you could think of, and over his head is a picture of Al Pacino and Scarface. I'm just dying sitting out there. Well, he's talking to a woman, no less. I believe it was a singer named Melissa Manchester, screaming at her. And I sit down in front of him, and he actually says, can I say what he said?
Go ahead. All we're going to do is edit it, maybe not.
He looks at me and he says, "What the fuck do you want?" And I'm just ready to melt right into the chair. And I said, "Well, I'm here for the interview for, your music supervisor." And I had just graduated from college, so what I had on there was I was a DJ, I was going to school for TV production, and that was about it. And he looked at it, and he goes, "What the fuck is this?" He loved using that word. Yep. With a British accent. Yep. What the fuck is this? And he goes, I'm gonna send you out with some music to work with a producer." And he goes, "And you're gonna take a job with him and get a leave." He goes, "Get the fuck out of my office." It was almost that quick. So I go home to my little apartment, and I close the door, I close the blinds, I grab my cat, and I sit in the corner, because everybody knows I was on this interview.
Yep.
And every time you go on an interview, you always think you're gonna get it,
Right.
And all this man did was just scream at me for 5 minutes.
Were there lines of cocaine on his desk, by the way, while the screaming was going on?
No comment. 20 minutes later, I got a phone call, I got the job.
Now back then, no cell phones.
No.
Right? So you're thinking, I gotta literally sit by my phone for however long.
Oh, it could be days, weeks.
Sure.
Yeah. And I couldn't call anybody because I thought I was just kicked out of a building. And I got the job, and it was probably the greatest job I've ever had.
And at what point in time did you ask what the pay was for that job? Did you not care at the time? Say, I got the
probably
job.
Didn't care, but the first thing I remember doing was calling my dad and saying, "Okay, I'm making more money than I've ever had before. Can you help me navigate through how to handle the money?" And it wasn't like it was that much. It was 1981 or whatever it was, but to me, it was $1 million. I had never seen that much money before. So very exciting.
So you got this job, you're working for a company that everybody knows all about. Mm-hmm. You're out on the West Coast, early 80s. What happens next?
Party City. I never had to pay for a movie, I never had to pay for a concert, I never had to pay for almost anything. Everything was just handed to us. Parties whenever we wanted them. It's like what you see in the movies. You'd go to somebody's house and there'd be 10 or 15 movie stars all walking around. And I was quite infatuated by all that, and it was an interesting time. But everything comes to an end, and when it did end, the new people came in, a new regime came into the big black tower, and they wanted to make some changes. So we got swept out the door. Interestingly enough, I was coaching the executive softball team at the time. And I showed up on a Sunday morning, and my center fielder was a security guard. And he said, I got a notice yesterday that you're banned from the lot. I said, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, you're banned from the lot. I can't let you on." I go, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Well, you should talk with your third baseman, who happens to be my boss's boss." he's sitting in the stands, and I said, Kerry, I said, why am I banned from the lot? And he kind of looks at me. I said, why am I banned from the lot? He goes, well, you should need to talk to Brendan. And I said, no, I don't need to talk to Brendan. I'm talking to you. You're right here. He goes, oh, well, you've all been fired. But would you still coach the team?
Wow. For free, no less, correct? Yes.
Of course.
Yes.
That's Hollywood. So from there, I got a call from the estate of the bluesman Robert Johnson. And Robert Johnson was somebody back from the 1930s. He died at the age of 27, which is an interesting number because I don't know if you're familiar with that number and the people that have died at the age of 27. I believe the most current one is Amy Winehouse, died at 27. Robert Johnson died at 27. Janis Joplin, I believe.
Jim Morrison.
Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix. I don't know. A bunch of people have died at 27. So, so did he. And he only wrote 29 songs, but they were some of the greatest songs of blues that have since been re-recorded by major artists like Eric Clapton, Led Zeppelin, the Chili Peppers, the Stones, Bonnie Raitt, George Thorogood, Jack White. The list just goes on and on and on and on. And a lot of people thought that his music was in the public domain. They didn't understand copyright, so they wanted me to do two things. They wanted me to help promote his songs in movies, which is what I could do, and they also wanted me to help go after all these people who were illegally using his songs. Some of them are actually claiming that they wrote it. If you look back at, I believe it's Let It Bleed, the Rolling Stones 1969 album, if you look at the song Love in Vain, it'll say written by Richards, Jagger, Weinman, who am I missing? Wood? No, he wasn't there yet. The drummer. Anyway, Robert Johnson wrote that song in 1937. How can you claim that you wrote a song in 1969 that was written in 1937? They claim that they made so many drastic changes to the song musically and lyrically that it had no comparison, which is ridiculous because I played them side by side.
Sure.
So it was my job to go after people like that. One of the few people that actually gave Robert Johnson credit was Eric Clapton, although he would claim it under his own publishing company, thinking the song was public domain. So I had to go after all these people, and in a 10-year span, we collected well into the seven figures of royalties that would not have normally gone to his estate. At the time, there was no heir. We actually located an heir, and eventually handed him a seven-figure check, which he was very happy with. He was an elderly gentleman living in Crystal Springs, I believe, Mississippi, and was handed a seven-figure check.
And so at some point in your early, mid, late 20s, you've become, for lack of a better term, a detective for people in the music business.
I became a consigliere for the estate of Robert Johnson. I had one client. I was just like Robert Duvall in The Godfather. I did 7 days a week, nothing but Robert Johnson. That's all I did. They paid me well to do it. And then after about 10 years, I realized, you know, there must be other people that are in the same position. Other artists. It just can't be Robert Johnson. That really didn't dawn on me for quite some time, because I was really kept busy, almost 7 days a week. I was on call, so to speak. And then it just kind of hit me, actually, that the estate of Jimi Hendrix called. And that's kind of what set me off by saying, wait a minute, now Hendrix wants me. So there's got to be other people out there. So I branched out, and now I've been doing it, you know, since whatever that was, the early 90s. And I've got some 60 clients, major acts from the 30s all the way up to current day. And that's all I do all day long, is help find royalties.
And is that, in the way that you find it, is basically spend the majority of your time on a computer? Or is there some footwork that needs to be done where you're traveling to other places to do research?
I don't do too much traveling. Mainly traveling is to meet with my clients, which can be very important. Most people don't necessarily, they've all been ripped off. And all of a sudden some guy comes along and says, hey, I can find you money. I'm not always believed right off the bat.
Even if you tell them you're from Exeter, they don't believe you? Right?
Yeah.
I guess if you say, yeah, hey, I'm from LA, trust me.
Yvonne Ellerman is a perfect example. She wrote and recorded songs with Eric Clapton. She had a big hit in Saturday Night Fever called If I Can't Have You, I Don't Want Nobody Baby. She was Mary Magdalene in Jesus Christ Superstar. Anyway, she had been getting calls from people, and they were saying that, they found money for her, and she found me on the internet, and we talked on and off for a couple of months. She was from Hawaii, so it took a little bit of time difference to connect. Finally one day, I sent her my agreements, I talked to her till I was blue in the face. Finally one day she says, John, I want to do this. There are other people out there, though, that also want to help me. What's going to put it over the edge? What's going to do it? And I said, okay, I'm going to tell you the God's honest truth. I'm taking guitar lessons. And the song that I'm practicing right now is Wonderful Tonight by Eric Clapton, and you're the backup singer. She goes, I'll sign right now. So it's little things. It's not easy to sign clients, I will say. Most of them, it takes quite a bit of talking and getting them to understand what we do, how we do it, how it's going to benefit them. Some people will charge way too much in commissions. My idea is that I will never make more than my client will, ever. That's just, to me, that's not right. So, we do what we can. Everybody seems to be happy. And we get clients in all different ways. I've done interviews like I'm doing here. I've done newspaper articles. I've done advertising. Nothing works like word of mouth. It's just one client sitting down with another one having dinner saying, hey, this guy just helped me and maybe he can help you. And I get a phone call. That seems to work the best.
Well, on Next Stop Exeter, we have a theme song. It was written by Chris Claxton. Did a wonderful job. We haven't registered that song with anybody, with any agency or body of some sort. Should we? Or if somebody borrows the theme song to our show, what recourse do we have?
Well, who owns it?
We collectively do.
We collectively?
Yeah, our show. Chris produced it for us, and
well, he wrote the song.
Yeah.
But did he license it to you? Did he sell it to you?
No, he just did it.
Yeah.
He just sat down.
See, this is why I have a business.
And this is why I bring it up.
This is on.
You're not going to charge me for this, are you?
No.
Okay.
It's on a much smaller level, but that's how we end up helping people, because they enter into handshakes, they enter into agreements, everybody's friends, everybody's kumbaya, and then all of a sudden, it's not. And that's where I come into play. So there are so many issues in regard to your theme song. We could just leave it alone. But it should be protected by the person that writes it. It should be licensed by the proper entity that would be your show. There probably are some royalties, probably not many, but that could be generated. But it's such a small venue type of thing that I probably wouldn't be worried about it.
Well, the whole thought of Next Stop Exeter on its own, I'm very concerned that the BBC may just hijack our entire show, because there's an Exeter in England. They could take our show, they could take our theme song, and basically do the exact same thing over there. Could you protect our show image, license, whatever you would want to call it? Or are you basically focused strictly on music?
I'm pretty much just music. And even though, like I said, you're small, I still recommend to my clients, don't look at something just because it's small and say you'll do it later, because that could be too late. Perfect example is I represented a blues singer who wrote a song and recorded it, and then somebody came to him a year later and said, do you have something? I'm looking for some songs for my album. They were friends. And he said, yeah, this is a good song that I recorded, but you might like it as well. This guy recorded it, and then he registered it under his own publishing, without getting too fine in the nitty-gritty details.
Yep.
He registered it under his own company, and it became a hit that was not only recorded by him, but the Allman Brothers. And my client lost out on thousands and thousands of dollars because he never registered it properly. It wasn't a hit when he did it, but it became a hit. I have somebody else that recorded a song. He then sold it, and after that it was recorded by Johnny Cash, the Beatles, Elvis Presley. You need
a list of all stars.
You need to protect what you have.
Well, John, I'm thrilled you're able to accommodate us to come see your gorgeous studio here. It's fabulous seeing all these gold records on the wall.
Is this it?
Yes. I didn't take a whole day. I'm sure you got a phone call coming in from Led Zepp or something.
I have 500,000 stories.
Yeah, well, we'd be very happy to come back at another
anytime,
time to
anytime.
do that. I'm sure we'll have viewers of our show that'll come up to me and ask, how come you didn't ask this question or that question? I'll have a laundry list of extra questions for you, but thank you so much.
Sure.
Appreciate your time.
Okay.
I've been feeling empty, and I know why. 'Cause I haven't got you by my side. Every morning, waking up alone, I just wanna cry, wanna cry. So darling, it was easy figuring out what I got to do. I gotta get you back to me, baby. Here's what I need from you. I just want your sweet, 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 sweet love, yeah. I've been looking up every night, stars above. I'm just wishing for you to come back home. 'Cause all I want, all I need, all I wanna get from you is some of your sweet, sweet love. I think I'm going crazy inside. My head keeps spinning round and round, trying to hear the sound of your voice, your voice. So darling, it was easy figuring out what I got to do. I gotta get you back to me, baby. Here's what I need from you. I just want your sweet, 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 sweet love, yeah. I've been looking up every night, stars above. I'm just wishing for you to come back home. Oh, 'cause you're all I want, all I need, I wanna get from you is some of your sweet love. You're sweet, you're sweet, you're sweet.